Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Assalamu alaikum. Once again, another episode and edition of Behind the Final Call cover story. This week, we have on the cover, Beginning of Sorrows. Bloody war in Europe brings death, 1 million refugees, and open the door of wider global destruction. Brother Naba, once again, why this cover story?
Legitimately probably the biggest story that we have going right now from a number of perspectives, not only from the perspective of the politics of this world and the military alliances and the way that nations and groups of nations move, but also in terms of the divine timeline that we are on and what we understand after being taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that we are in a time of the changing of worlds, and we are living in the time in which the Caucasian people, who have been the masters of the planet for the last 6,000 years, will be removed. To make it simple, what we are seeing in Europe is directly, intimately connected to that. So not only do you have a tremendous loss of life, not only do you have tremendous upheaval, you're looking at things like gas prices could go up because of Russia's position when it comes to oil and the gasoline industry. Also, Ukraine and Russia, I think they account for about 30% of the world's basically the wheat supply. So disruptions could mean people unable to get bread. And then the most important thing, when you read this article, you will find we take the words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that he spoke February 27th at Mosque Mariam during the Swan Song. He talked about what this war in Europe would ultimately manifest. And he talked about what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught about Europe beginning to be the total destruction and breaking of America's power. So our article this week by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we really hope that everyone will really read it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's article this week is called "What Will Be the End of the War?" So we are trying to not only report, we're trying to really give divine insight. We're really trying to, in a sense, be bearers of witness in a time of trouble so that people will understand, what is going on in so many levels. And so the article is what will be the end of the war, of course, by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and it is taken from his monumental book, The Fall of America. So we hope that people will take the time to really read, analyze, and think about what is going on. But now over 1 million refugees now have fled Ukraine since Ukraine was invaded by the Russians and still is under attack by the Russians. And at this point, some of the latest information that I saw said that some 2 million refugees are now headed out of Ukraine, trying to find a place for themselves somewhere in Europe. And when you think about the level of death and destruction and war that has hit Africa, that has hit Asia, that has hit the Middle East, with literally, thousands and millions of people fleeing those areas, finding nowhere, being rejected in Europe, It's really a very, very uh, incredibly uh, disorienting thing to see. But we see, of course, the European powers and the white world trying to take care of these white people in Ukraine. Now, we are not saying that any innocent person should be injured. That's not our point. Our point is you see a tremendous outpouring of sympathy, tremendous outpouring of moral outrage, a tremendous outpouring of charity, a tremendous organizing effort to try to save and to protect the lives of Ukrainians, Caucasian people, that you didn't see in Syria, you didn't see in Afghanistan, you didn't see in Libya, you haven't seen it in Africa. So we again we are brought face to face with the reality of race and power, and where are we as a people going to be? Where will we be and what will we do? So very, very important time and very important situation that we're looking at. And that's what made this story worthy of being the cover.
Praise due to Allah. Praise due to Allah. Beautiful, beautiful. And of course, and
Well, Troy, you still there?
yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. And of course, even though the cover story is borrowing sorrows, of course, there's two articles that really tie into that. As you can see on the
Absolutely.
cover, is page 2 and 3. You actually touched on both of those, and I
Yeah.
see Brother Lewis is on. He wasn't expecting us to pop on a little early, but we had to get it in a little bit early today. So thank you, still, Brother
Yeah.
Lewis, for your faithful support and still jumping
Yeah,
on with.
and what we have on page 2, and again, you can go to finalcall.com and read some of these articles right now. Um, this is the page 2 story headline. Quote, Ukrainians care nothing about black life. The roots and reality of a race problem. This is by Sister Anisa Muhammad, one of our up and coming writers. But she talked to literally a brother who was in Ukraine, African brother, and not only does she report on, not only does she report on the things that we have already learned, Africans being stopped at borders with Poland, for example. Africans being told, no, we got to let the white Ukrainians in before we let you in. African women being denied the ability to transport because everybody's fleeing. Everybody is fleeing the war zone. But when you read her story, not only will you get those firsthand testimonies, you will get also an understanding of some of the history of Ukraine. So when Mr. Putin says there are Nazi elements in Ukraine, he's not totally lying. But you got to read the article to see exactly what I'm talking about. And if you go to finalcall.com, you can see it. But this is always important for us to bring additional information, to
Yes,
bring
sir.
additional perspective, and to chronicle whatever the situation is with black people. That has to be somebody's priority, and it is certainly ours.
Praise you to Allah. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, that's that perspective, even though this time, surprisingly, we have others who are talking about the impact that the war is having on people of African descent from around the diaspora that are being impacted. But of course, you're not going to get the consistent type of coverage that you get and you're receiving from the final call. And of course, as we look at that, it's really important. And a brother earlier in the last week, reached out to me, and he works with mentoring young brothers, and they got into the discussion of just really looking at how this is impacting and what my thoughts were on, just seeing how black people are being treated and that element. And just it's important that we look at and notice that we're, by the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, we're asked the question, why do they call um, our people Africans? And one of the things is that so that we will think that we're a different people. And the reality is so important that we see that that which our people are suffering all across the planet, the darker people are suffering similar experiences.
Yeah.
And that takes us into the next article, on page 3, I'm sorry, on page 4, Biden, Blacks in America, State of Disunion. Can you touch on
Yeah.
that?
Well, this is, of course, dealing with the president's recent State of the Union address and whether or not he will deal with black issues. So this is a constant, constant, constant. And we're just, look, we have to examine the politics. So when you look at when you read this article, you have the opportunity to kind of hear different voices and hear people that are not marching in lockstep with the Democratic Party. We have to have an independent mindset, and we have to understand politics is often called the art of who gets what. When you win and you don't get anything, you don't get voting rights protections at the federal level. You win and you don't get policing reform at the federal level, right? Why are you voting? Who are you voting for? Why are you coming out in record numbers? So these are the types of things that we have to talk about. We have to talk about the president's agenda, the president's policies, how they impact us. But that's a piece we hope everybody will stop by and take a look at because we have to understand that we got to go beyond just believing in a benevolent white man. We have to do things for ourselves. We have to chart our own political destiny. We have to decide who our political friends and enemies are. And we have to decide what we have to do to protect our interests. If we're not doing that, we're really not being the most intelligent people that we should be. Everyone in this country, groups in this country, protect their own interests.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see Brother Louis just sent a shout out. You're going to have to let us know what city they can come and pick up the paper. He said you can pick up the final call this Saturday at Ma'at Market, 12 to 4. You're going to have to give us a little bit more information. Let the people know what city and a little more in terms of location. Because, of course, by Allah's permission, we have people who are joining us live from across the country and inshallah, maybe even all around the world. So praise you to Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're going to keep it moving, of course, with the coverage. We have, if people are seeing and noticing, and if you're keeping up with the news, that this war is impacting the economy. It is going to increase to impact the economies around the world. And on page 5, you can find an article dealing with the soaring, increasing rents, causing woes and hardship, and even just how this government and the Supreme Court is nixes the CIA contractors' testimony on Guantanamo detainees. Can you speak on that? I didn't get a chance to get to that one.
Well, this is, again, we know that basically at Guantanamo Bay, you have people that are there in this prison that really have no rights. So this story is related to 2 former CIA contractors, and now the Supreme Court has ruled they cannot be questioned in an investigation about how a suspected Al Qaeda subject was repeatedly tortured. The justices ruled 6-3 on March 3rd that due to national security concerns, CIA contractors James Elmer Mitchell and John Bruce Jessen cannot be questioned in a Polish probe into the treatment of Abu Zubaydah. Abu Zubaydah 50 is one of 39 remaining detainees at the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So again, where is the respect for rights? How long are you going to keep people locked up? Mr. Zubaydah lost an eye. He underwent waterboarding, which is a form of simulated drowning, 83 times. 83 times in a single month while in CIA custody, and that is, of course, according to government documents. And Mr. Zubaydah is, of course, a Palestinian. He was captured in 2002 in Pakistan. He has been held by the U.S. since then without charges. He spent over 15 years detained at Guantanamo. Now, I mean, that's just horrific, brother. But it has now been co-signed by the Supreme Court. This is just evil. And so when you hear from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when you hear from Minister Farrakhan talking about the judgment of God on America, if the God don't judge America, man, he can't judge nobody. But this is, again, one of these very, it is egregious. It is outrageous But this is what we see over and over again. And this is why we are looking at what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called Black Universal Rise.
Yes, sir.
Where our people are simply tired. This is just, I mean, it's so wrong on so many levels. It really is.
And of course, it's as we're taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that separation is the best and only solution. And is if you can't see that, we're constantly getting proof. And as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned at the Savior's Day address, this is the final call. This is our opportunity, and this is our swan song that we have to make. We have to make a decision. And as he has said, separation or death. And we're dying right now. And if we don't separate, well, if you don't know by now, you'll probably never know. And by Allah's grace and permission, I pray that everybody's taking the opportunity to nurse on and hear the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from that lecture, the Swan Song. And of course, you can check that out by going to media.noi.org. Praise due to Allah. So, with that said, on a little lighter note, as I mentioned, of course, the Savior's Day event, and hopefully there's no one on here that doesn't know what I'm talking about, but this was the commemoration of the birth of Master Muhammad, which represents the establishment of a new world and a new government. And we had this beautiful celebration after several years. And of course, that coverage has been in the paper for the past few weeks. And of course, we have more this week, a weekend of expectation, joy, and celebration. And you can, man, you just really need to check out and make sure that you get a physical paper as well as the digital edition of the newspaper so you can see these beautiful photos and beautiful pictures on the headquarters of the National Center, where you can see people with a mosque full, a humongous tent full, a humongous gymnasium full of people who are celebrating and hearing the divine guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Anything else that you want to touch on in terms of this coverage, Brother Naba?
Well, I mean, I think, of course, the different Nation of Islam features. You definitely want to spend some time looking at the minister's article. I mean, it's a great layout done by Brother Tim 6X, great layout. But what the minister talks about, and what one of the major things that he raised, and this is February 27th, speaking at Mosque Maryam for Savior's Day, the value of truth, and we can't live without truth. So you really got to get in to this piece and learn about that. Read about, think about, be able to ponder, what is it about this thing that we call life and the race of life? And how do we get through this thing that we call the race of life? How do we run it successfully? And how is that success tied to our embrace and understanding of truth? So this is a really powerful article. Absolutely go through our international section and you will see some of the different articles that we're reporting on. In Sri Lanka, the human rights chief welcomes reform, but there's still questions about whether the reforms will go far enough. We had thousands to evacuate the worst Australian floods in a decade. I don't even think anybody heard about that one. Then we got Cubans abroad trying to just participate in a series of consultations to try to see what resolution they can come to. So these are different aspects of what we're dealing with. On the we have a Black network that was launched by the Institute of the Black World 21st Century to teach Black history year round. Great idea. So we also had coming out of the Mid-Atlantic region. This was really nice. This is the young Muslims. This is the baby Muslims. Muslim Youth Defend Farrakhan on virtual program. This was our young people, our babies, making the intellectual, spiritual, very cogent arguments about the criterion. So you definitely want to see that. And then we got some great pictures from Savior's Day celebration in Tampa. So this is all about uplifting, teaching, and training our babies to be the perfect and future rulers of this world.
All praise are due to Allah. All praise are due to Allah. And of course, there's several pictures There's a section together again, and where is that at? I just had it up. What page is that, brother Naba, with the photos?
Oh, that'll be page. Hold on, give me a minute. I can tell you. Go this way. I think I was going the wrong way. That will actually be page 32.
Okay. And of course, I'm gonna go here so you can get a snapshot, but you got to get your own. We're not gonna give it all to you. You definitely want to take the opportunity to check out and see those beautiful pictures in the paper, inspiring. Of course, I'm a Rakim fan. Beautiful picture of him with Dougie Fresh, as well as our brother comedian, and his name is slipping my mind right now. Help me out.
Godfrey. How can you
Godfrey.
forget Godfrey?
Yes, sir.
God and free. God
Yes,
free.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
God
beautiful
free, man.
pictures there.
He's God and he's free. He's God free.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to make sure you check out those beautiful photos throughout the Final Call newspaper. And of course, we can't close out without mentioning, as usual, we have our coverage on the special coverage that's in every edition of the Final Call newspaper and has been for quite some time now. And you can find that starting on page 7, and that is the special section that's entitled COVID-19 and the U.S. policy of depopulation. Can you touch a little bit on what's covered in this section this week?
Yeah. Well, we have again, Dr. Ridley Muhammad is writing, and again, he is right on the case, right on the issue of what is the enemy trying to do us. There's Dr. Harry Davidson back in the day, noted Muslim and psychologist, had a book that was called Somebody is Trying to Kill You. And so every week, we have the opportunity with the work of Brother Ridgely and now the work of Brother Sultan and others to just unmask. So Brother Ridgely is talking about these different forces in America that are now turning on one another. So part of what he writes about is how big insurance is now blaming big pharma for a rise in death rates. Because of course the question is who's going to pay for it, right? So it's a business. It doesn't matter that people died. It doesn't matter that loved ones were lost. What matters for these people is who's going to pay for it. So again, finalcall.com, subscribe, look, like, follow, spread this broadcast. Give it a thumbs up, share the link, and just continue to support that. The Final Call, which supports you, and which has always acted in the best interest of Black people.
Absolutely. And I mean, and you have to, you have to hear this perspective. Many of us, and I think for me, it is unfortunately, but fortunately, this section of the paper, some things that you heard of and you know about, and you may know the history of things that this government has done, and that's good. But when you hear, currently what's going on, it shakes you, or it has shaken me. Because I mean, sometimes I'll be honest, and we've talked about this, and you scolded me for it. Is that I'm like, well, certain parts of the paper I may skip over this week. I'm like, well, I already know what's going on. I know enough about COVID. I know about the agenda of the U.S. government and all that. So I may not have read those sections. But when I started being more consistent, the insight on what's going on is amazing. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I may not be quoting this exactly right, but he said that you can't phantom the depth of Satan. You can't even we can't conceptualize how wicked this enemy is and what he would do. So this gives us even just a snapshot and a picture on what we can find out so that you can know one of the most important knowledges. Of course, we're taught is the knowledge of self, the knowledge of God, but we also have to have a knowledge of our enemy. So this section definitely does that on a weekly basis. Brother Naba, I think we covered it all in a very short period of time.
I think that we were highly efficient today, man.
Praise to Allah. So we're looking forward to your feedback on your thoughts on this shorter format. And we always are looking to hear your feedback and your input so that we can make this more better. We always trying to make it more better. So praise due to Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm looking for comments in the feedback. The final call brings news that currently going on all over the world, and that the world skips over. So yeah, much of what you hear, you're not going to really hear anywhere else. And you're definitely, even sometimes you may hear some of the stories, but you're not going to get the depth coverage, and you're not going to get the perspective that really ties us and allows us to see how these things are connected to us. So praise due to Allah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Brother Naba, any closing words or comments before we close out?
Well, again, this is what you do. Like, follow, share, subscribe. Like, follow, share, subscribe. It takes resources to do what we do, and we do it pretty well. We still got a way to go. So just remember, take your subscription out, buy the paper, and invest in that which is investing in you. And the final call is a sure investment.
Praise due to Allah. Thanks. So I haven't asked for a while because you've been shutting me down lately. But can you give us any sneak preview on what we can expect to see next week?
Nope. Tune in.
Well, I'm about to tell everybody because I know what's going to be in the paper next week.
Well, go
it's going to be some
truth.
It's going to be some divine guidance. It's going to be some perspectives, alternative perspectives on what you see in the dominant narrative that's being portrayed in the mass media. You're going to hear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You're going to hear words from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You're going to get some words on how to eat to live. You're going to find out what the Muslims are doing in the communities. You're going to get all of that. But next week, you're going to get a little bit more detail than what I just gave you. So thank you for your continued support. And inshallah, we'll see you back next week, but not by yourself. Make sure that you take the time and invite somebody else to hear this message and to get divine light and guidance. Until next time, Brother Nama, I want you to close out with the closing words.
Assalamu alaikum. FinalCall.com. Come on, man. Get your subscription. Shout out to the mighty FOI for always taking the truth to our people, regardless of whom or what. These are men, little messengers of God, all through the pandemic. All through the pandemic, the FOI, the mighty FOI, with the backing of Allah, wearing personal protective equipment, have been taking this word to our people. That is a wonderful testament to our leader, wonderful testament to our minister, and wonderful testament to the type of men that Muhammad makes. So shout out to the mighty FOI for staying on the case and continually working in the resurrection of the dead.
All praise are due to Allah. Assalamu alaikum. Happy Savior's Day. May Allah continue to bless us all. Until next time, we'll see you next week. Not by yourself, Allah willing, behind the final call cover story.
All right.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.